Yo, what's going
What
on?
up?
What's up, man?
Not much, man. Getting situated, getting right. Call me Jerry Jones. I got the Johnny Walker Blue tonight. Oh, hey, I rhymed.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ooh, yeah, you definitely Jerry Jones. You rhyming on the mic. You know
hmm
what I'm saying?
Bro, Coolio.
He
You
been
see that,
rhyming. He been rhyming too much. I kind of ain't been liking that. He been rhyming a little too much. He been
Jerry? Yeah.
yeah. He been rhyming too much. So I don't want him rapping and rhyming nothing because he like running that jaw. But it is
He's,
what it
he's got
is,
to break out a little Gangster's Paradise for us in honor of Coolio, right?
man. That dog, man.
That
That
that one
dude,
that one hits me hard.
man. Like I said, that dude, bro. I like he can't help himself. You feel me? Like it's to the point now he just can't help himself. Like that's just crazy. Like this dude cannot. He gonna be 100 and still be trying to talk.
Oh, you're talking Jerry? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, hell yeah, Jerry.
Oh man. So did you see the news on Coolio?
No, I didn't.
Coolio died.
What?
Yeah, 59. That news broke like an hour ago, I think.
Damn.
Yep. That one hits hard for me.
That's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's crazy.
Right, right.
Here's the thing. You know why it's crazy, DDP? This is the funny thing why I say it's crazy. It's not crazy at all because it's just a human being like me and you. Right? And the age, it's not crazy on the age, but it's just like because he's in the limelight and you know you saw him and he rapped, and it's just like always when you see a public figure, shout out to everybody in the chat, it's just wow. But dang, hey, I gotta shout this out. Hey babe, Coolio just died. Coolio just died.
No way.
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Yeah, they're still figuring it out, but I think I read they suspect cardiac arrest. So
Cardiac arrest.
That's what they suspect. Obviously, they haven't done an autopsy yet. It was just announced earlier.
Now I'm gonna tell you this right now. I hate to hear that he passed. I hate hearing that. But if he died of normal things, I feel good because so many rappers or entertainers you hear about the other stuff that they drag them through the mud with the extra stuff that may have happened. Oh, he died, but he was high on cocaine, or he did this, or you know what I mean? I hope that this was just a regular death, you know, and then we can just end it and then we just remember the good stuff instead of running the person through the mud because of what you may have heard when they pass. You know what I'm saying? I just don't like that. I just feel like remember the good stuff about the person when they pass. Don't bring out bad things about them, you know, when they die. I just don't like when they do that. So hopefully all that, you know, doesn't happen with him. 59.
Yep. Definitely sucks. That one hits hard for me. I swear it was like, I don't know, a week or so ago that I was legitimately blasting Gangsta's Paradise. Like that one that was definitely a jam for sure.
Yeah, and he had, I mean, I remember him just in so many other things, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
You know, he was a figure with beyond that. Like he did a lot of other things beyond that. And you know, I like Coolio. He just had a really good, you know, he had a really good vibe. And like I said, shout out to everybody in the vibe. The Ninja Life's Crazy, Eric Matt, Tyrone Church, Craig English, Irvin Simmons. Come on in the building. I didn't mean to cut you off, DDP. I just giving shout outs to everybody out there. You know what I'm saying? But you know, like I said, RIP, man. There's a lot of our entertainers, DDP, that we heard, you know, that are just passing. You're just like, dang, he died. Dang, he died. Dang, and it's like, and they're in their 40s and 50s. You feel me? It's like my age, and they're gone. So I look at it like, man, let me count my blessings. I'm still here.
Yeah, like Gangsta's Paradise. He was what 23 when that came out. Like I think that's like literally something he says in the song. Like I'm 23 now. Way things are going. Basically, like, well, I see 24. I don't know. I don't remember the exact thing off the top of my head. But yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, that is not our normal upbeat crosstalk, is it?
But hey, it is what it is, and we're gonna get back here in a good positive mode. You feel me?
It's a Coolio with Johnny Walker Blue. Good stuff.
Yeah, I know, man. Shout out to him. Give him pour a lot of little Johnny Walker for me, big dog.
I can't pour it on my desk, but I'll take a swig for you.
Good. There you go. Oh, that was a good swig.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I like that one.
Nice and warm.
Yep.
Let's see. So, other, I guess, good news for me finally is it seems that my car odyssey has finally come to an end.
Not mine.
No, not yours.
No. So, but let's listen to your positivity.
All right.
Because remember, this is positively relentless. So tell me about your positively relentless.
let me start by saying that I was relentless and on their ass because they kept telling me for like a week that the car was going to be ready tomorrow. It was always something. Finally ended up being something where they're like, oh, okay, well the engine is fixed. We replaced the engine and all that, covered by the extended warranty, covered. That's great.
Woo,
but they're like,
great.
Oh yeah, that saved me thousands of dollars. That was awesome. But they're like, but like when you disconnect the engine, the AC, like the Freon, like drains out, and so it has to be refilled. I'm like, all right, cool. So it recharged the AC, the Freon, and they're like, yeah, our machine that does that broke, so we've sent your car to another service center. And I was like, what? There's another service center around here, like for this? Where? They're like, oh no, that's like in like, I forget what they said. I looked it up. It was like almost an hour away. I was like, so my car's not going to be ready today because the AC doesn't work now, and you sent my car an hour away without telling me? And they're like, yeah, it'll be ready tomorrow. I was like, don't tell me tomorrow. Don't tell me tomorrow.
Oh my goodness.
Fair enough. They did get it situated by like 5:30, but yeah, after like two and a half months of like not having my car, not having to worry about it breaking down, I actually have a working car again. So that's pretty sweet. I'm happy about that. At least the 10-15 minutes I was able to kind of drive it around, see how it was feeling. It felt good. So I'm feeling good about that. I know your situation's a bit more of a extended odyssey even still.
Yeah, it's a little bit odyssey. Yes, Steve Lumpton Coolio passed. But yeah, mine's a little bit odyssey, but it's not bleak. It's just, just gotta find the right thing. But in your situation, you might have had to go through all that, but the big silver lining out of all that was I heard warranty.
Yep.
Covered.
Yep.
That's the thing I heard more than anything else was warranty and covered. So my thing was, if it was me, like you are probably in your eyes, hey, you know what? I hate that this is happening, but warranty covered, I'll deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the absolute game changer, because if I didn't have the warranty, I was probably going to just junk the thing and just try to move into the next thing, because I'm not sinking another several $1,000s into a brand new engine if there's no warranty or anything.
Right.
Eric Mack, Keenan and Kel theme song was my jam as a kid. That was absolutely a banger for me. I loved Keenan and Kel. Yeah, man, that actually escaped me for a moment. Like he said that, and I was like, that is him. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now that I got that nostalgia trip. Yeah.
Right. He messed up the trip, but that's all right. You brought him. You threw him a loop, but he's coming back now.
Yep.
Because who are we gonna talk about first? We're gonna talk about Mavericks. We're gonna talk about
yeah.
Which one want to talk about?
Let's talk a little bit of Mavericks here. So
okay. Now all y'all people, hold up before you say that. All y'all people in here, remember on Wednesdays, this is Mavericks Cowboys. So don't leave and be like, blah blah blah. Hey, it's good. We're talking basketball, NBA, good stuff. So
Yep.
Mavericks, Cowboys. Go ahead, DDP.
So Mavericks had their media day, I think yesterday or the day before, and a couple things came out of this of interest. Obviously, this is the chance for team access to the media for the first time and everything, and you kind of get some of the thoughts. Jason Kidd seems to wear all of this pretty well on his sleeve, pretty straightforward with it, telling you things like last year he telegraphed who the starters were going to be. And he talked about the leadership council, which was kind of a hilariously failed thing last year because Hardaway missed most of the year and KP was a shell of himself who got traded midseason. So the leadership council kind of was just down to Luka by the end. But Kid this time talking about it. It sounds like the main things that are moving forward the plan, Christian Wood will come off the bench. He will be the Mavericks' sixth man. That's not a permanent thing. Again, Jalen Brunson last year did not start the year as a starter. He moved in January, really because of a lucky break. Like that, you think about his meteoric rise to the contract he got, absolute meteoric rise, because he didn't become a full-time starter until January, and it was because the team was just blasted. I guess December, but it was when it happened, but January was when he officially became a starter. The team just got blasted with health and safety protocols and had guys signed off the street, right? They were bringing in Isaiah Thomas and guys like that just for like a game, 2 games, whatever, just to kind of fill a playable roster for a little bit. And Jalen Brunson, for most of that time, was able to be available and healthy, and that allowed him to secure that position where suddenly he became a full-time starter, and then by the end of the summer signs $100 million deal to go to New York and try and be like the centerpiece of their build. So things are fluid is the main thing I'm saying here. For now, Christian Wood's going to come off the bench as the sixth man. I think the reason he might like that, not that he loves the bench, but as the sixth man, you're kind of like the energizer, like the scoring option off the bench. You are the focal point coming off the bench, and you're going to play a lot more with both units, not just somewhere in the fold where you play mostly with the second unit. He's going to get a lot of burn with pretty much the full scope of guys, a lot with the starters, and I think that'll serve him well, especially coming off the bench. He's going to be able to get mismatches against the other team's bench players, and he's going to get opportunities to come in fresh when other guys have already kind of gotten a little burn in. So that's going to be huge for him. Luka, talking on Jalen Brunson specifically, basically was saying, you know, it's a big loss. Like, Jalen was a fantastic player, but he pointed a lot of confidence in Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm trying to pull up the full quote here. I took a shot of it here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. So on losing Brunson in New York, Luka said, "Don't forget about Spencer Dinwiddie." Here's the exact quote. "Obviously, we can't replace Jalen Brunson. He was an amazing player, an amazing guy. But I think Spencer is really going to have a bigger role this year, and I think he can do it. He has the abilities to do it." So Luka putting a huge vote of confidence for Spencer Dinwiddie. And Dinwiddie is an interesting prospect because he is a little bit overlooked in everything. The postseason run and the inconsistency for him really soured a lot of people on him quickly. But if you look at what his run was in those 23 regular season games, the dude was phenomenal. Like, and I would say 19 or 20 of those 23 games, he was fantastic. Probably the Mavericks' second best player in those games, to the extent where we were saying, like, yeah, he's Jalen Brunson insurance. But then Brunson kind of soared. His stock continued to soar in the postseason, and Dinwiddie's dropped a bit. And now suddenly people are like, Dinwiddie's not going to be good enough to fill the void of Jalen. In terms of the scoring acumen and things like that he's going to bring to the table and a relative playmaking ability, I think he can fill a lot of it. It's not like defensively either of them are exactly standouts, but Jalen was certainly not a great defender. He was on his best day an average defender. So I think you can replace a lot of that, and I think especially with the added scoring punch of Christian Wood, I think you're absolutely capable of replacing that production that Jalen brought in. It's just, to me, do you have a guy who can consistently, run the offense as that secondary ball handler and still create and be consistent? Because that's what they found last year once they had the 3 guys, essentially, the 3 ball handlers. And when Brunson really took off, they need that still. It can't all be Luka. So if Dinwiddie can step in and be consistent, great. That'll take this team a long way. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Other quick notes here. JaVale McGee asked about basically why he chose Dallas. Pretty much said what we would expect. Yeah, I had a 7-game sample size of watching Luka Doncic, and I was sold. Makes sense. I mean, JaVale coming from Phoenix, obviously, generational point guard in Chris Paul, future Hall of Famer probably. That's, he's used to playing with guys that set him up. But I think it's different to look at what Phoenix is, especially where they stood at the end of last season, versus Dallas in terms of that. Like, it makes much more sense for JaVale at his stage of his career to go to Dallas with a bigger role, a starting role, and playing with Luka and where their ceiling looks like it is relative to Phoenix. Phoenix might only have a year, maybe two. You hear DeAndre Ayton talking at media day. He doesn't look like he even wants to be there. He hadn't even talked with Monty Williams since game 7 of that series last year, he said. Dude does not want to be there. Mm-hmm. So as much as they're trying to say like, run it back, it's like, no, man, you're going to have him a year and you're going to trade him and try and get something in return for him. That's all that's happening with DeAndre Ayton. There's no chance he stays there long term. But JaVale makes sense to come to Dallas, and he basically says, like, if I needed any convincing, it was just watching Luka in that series, and Luka was straight up assassin in that series, like tore them apart, especially once Phoenix took the 3-2 lead. That's the Luka talking trash. Everybody want to talk when they're up, and then he eviscerates in the next 2 games, eviscerates not just Devin Booker, but Chris Paul by himself, basically outproduces both of them, and the Mavericks just destroy Phoenix in that game 7 beatdown. That is still satisfying every time I look back at it or see highlights from it. Just tremendous stuff there. And then Maxi Kleber, signed a 3-year extension. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. I think when we were going to talk about it, ended up being a show we postponed or something. He signed a 3-year extension. I'm a little reluctant about that because he'll be 35 when it's wrapping up, and I already feel like we're seeing kind of a physical decline, so I am worried about that. But I will say, at media day, he looks to be in the best shape I've ever seen him in. Like, he's not just slim, he's cut, he's jacked. He looks legitimately built out, and he said he took off the summer from any international play, and I think that's good for especially a guy that's had back issues and some kind of issues along those lines. I think that's good that he actually gave his body rest and worked on kind of rebuilding his body to be more resilient. Whether that plays out, I don't know. But that was a basic observation I had of him that was at least encouraging.
Okay. All right. So listen to everything you were saying, kind of bouncing off of that. First of all, I'm kind of warmed up to the idea of Christian Wood coming off the bench. Because of the simple fact that you are going to need that firepower, and we saw that lacking kind of in the series, in the playoffs, that they were lacking the firepower when it was coming off the bench in the playoffs last year. So, and just like you said, just because you're not starting doesn't mean you don't finish, and you're probably going to get significant minutes at the spot, multiple spots on the team. Yeah. So I think it's a definitely okay thing, and like Christian Wood should look at it like this is not like a slight against you. This is where we want to be able to really maximize your abilities. Mm-hmm. And I think his abilities will be maximized with this particular team coming off the bench because, like you said, this is going to be firepower. He can be kind of a go-to guy. He can really clean up boards. He can really score on the inside. So really that double-double can really marinate. And it's not like he's going to be not going to be playing with Luka and those guys anyway. So right. I think that, I think it's a good idea, and then I feel like, just like we were talking about Jason Kidd, they're just going to kind of see how it goes. Maybe start out with it, see how it works in the very beginning. If it's really working, roll with it. If it might be a little things that are not, working, I think they'll mix and match because we were talking about already with the JaVale McGee thing, that him possibly being a starter. Well, you can have that mix and match with him and Dwight Powell. I think they're going to go back and forth with that, kind of see how those, how it vibes with Luka and kind of roll with it. So I think that's going to be an experiment itself, like who's going to be starting between the center positions. So I think it's a good thing with Christian Wood coming off the bench. And I think he'll be a better player because of it, because they'll be able to split a lot of matchups because you're not going to be seeing a lot of guys coming off in the second team like a Christian Wood, and he can really exploit that. And then when you were talking about the Spencer Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson, I heard what Lucas said about Jalen Brunson said it's gonna be tough, but you can replace Jalen Brunson. He's a good player, but he's not a player that you can't replace in the NBA. So he can be replaced. And I think with the Spencer Dinwiddie thing, he got traded in the kind of the midseason. The Mavericks picked him up toward the end of the season, right? Yeah, right. So at the deadline. Right at the deadline. So, maybe I feel like he was trying to force things, trying to blend, try to show his worth. And when you try to do that as a basketball player, it's not going to take away from your skills, but you'll just be missing shots because you're really just kind of in your head. You're just trying to make plays.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now that you have a full offseason with the team, you're with the squad, you know your worth, what you're doing. Jalen Brunson is gone. So now you're going to be heavily counted on. And you have, like I said, an offseason with the team. That does good because you didn't have the offseason with the team before. You were just kind of traded in with the team and you just had to make it work. Mm-hmm. Now you're familiar with the team, you're familiar with Luka, you're familiar with the coaching staff. So I think it's going to be, we won't see what we saw last year out of Dinwiddie. I think we'll see a better player in Dinwiddie because, we saw him working out. We saw him going hard, training with the Kevin Durant's, those guys. So I think he's going to be good and ready because he's got the off season to be able to work with guys, blend, gel, all that good stuff. So I'm saying good things with him, going forward with that. And, just bouncing off with the JaVale McGee thing when he was talking about Luka. I mean, you got a player in Luka. Like I said, why wouldn't you be sold? And considering what his role was going to be, it could be a good role with him because rebounding, blocking shots, you're going to catch plenty alley-oops because Luka loves to throw those up. So, and we know JaVale likes to go get those. And I think that'll be a good tandem once they kind of figure out how they want to do that. So it just makes sense. So we'll kind of see how it all plays out. But I like those things that we were talking about going forward, and we'll just kind of see how it happens and how it forms when the regular season starts.
The Jason Kidd quote specifically on Christian Wood's role, here it is. He says, "We'll get to talking about Christian Wood's role as we go forward, but I've never coached him. I want to see what he's capable of. Then we'll make a decision on where he's going to play. But right now, he will not start. The success we've had, we've played small." He went on to say, I think Christian Wood said it yesterday, that he's excited to win. So if you're talking about winning, you got to sometimes sacrifice. The great players sacrifice. For him, it's just a matter of understanding what his role is and what we're going to ask him to do. So I think he's pretty heavily leaning towards we're envisioning the 6-man thing. We won't say definitively like that's all you are, because like if you play above and beyond, then yes, we're going to be willing to make adjustments. So obviously see Jalen Brunson for that, right? But that seems pretty firm where they're envisioning him right now. As for, you mentioned Dwight Powell, he, interestingly, circling back to that leadership council thing, he's now been elevated into that status as well. So now the quote-unquote leadership council is Luka, still Tim Hardaway Jr., and Dwight Powell. So make of that what you will. He's been here forever, whatever, I get it. He is still penciled in as the starting center. JaVale McGee is the starting center. So I think Powell is your 4, and off the bench, your front court is Christian Wood and Maxey. That's a hell of a front court off the bench. I'll say that much, especially if Maxey's actually hitting his shots. I do like that a lot. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see the kind of season Christian Wood can put together, because with his 3-point shot, the monster dunks he's going to be able to bring to the mix, yeah, I think it's very possible he averages 20 a game off the bench and is a very serious contender, if not the winner of the 6-man award this year. Like, I think if that's the role they're going to have him in, I think he can excel at such a level that he's going to make that kind of noise. And he'll be helped out as well because Jason Kidd says Tyson Chandler has taken on a bigger role with the Mavericks this year. He's agreed to help the Mavericks big men as well as the Texas legend big. So I don't know what his official role is. He's not like quote unquote on the coaching staff, but he's working with the Mavericks more closely this year than he did last year, where he kind of was around early on, but then kind of drifted away. It sounds like he's going to be much more consistent in the development of these guys. So love that, especially for a guy like Christian Wood, who has the physical tools to be at least a serviceable defender, but hasn't really had to apply himself that way yet. I think Tyson can absolutely coach those good traits into him. It just all comes down to the want, and that's something Tyson always had in spades.
Yeah, and you know what? There's no shame in being a 6-man out there, man. there's been plenty of great players have been 6 men in the NBA. So there's nothing wrong with being a 6 man. And like I said, he's going to get significant minutes. It's not like he's going to be a 6 man and getting 22 minutes a game. He's going to get significant minutes. So I don't think this is a big deal or even it needs to be spoke on. And, he probably, in the very beginning, like, hey, why'd I come over here? But then once you sit down with the coach and then they tell you the plan of what they really have a process of what they really want to do with you, then you're like, okay, hey, I'll roll with it. You know what I'm saying? And let's see how it rolls. So I think that, that's a good thing, how it will come and how it eventually formulate. And as I said, I just kind of want to see how it goes. And, I got a question from Steve Lumpton. He says, can the Mavs make another deep run in the playoffs? And I'm going to just say my 2 cents on it. I think it's going to be tough. If you want me to be honest, from my opinion, I think it's going to be tough because I feel like always the second year after you have success, because a lot of people didn't think the Mavs were going to do that, and they did. So the second year of success is always tougher because now people are really going to keep their eyes on you because of what you did. And the success is always going to be tougher. And you didn't have the players you had in the playoff run last year. So mixing and maxing and blending your new guys and making them formulate into the team that you were at trending last year, formulating this year. So I think it's going to be a process. Me and you both talked about there's probably going to be a little bumpiness in the road early because they're going to be trying to figure each other out. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm not going to just jump out there and say, yeah, Mavs going to make another deep run in the playoffs. I'm not going to sit there and say that. I'm going to kind of sit there and watch it and see how it formulates. Can they? Yes, but it will be tough. I'm going to say that. What's your thoughts?
I think it's definitely going to be tough, but here's the thing, right? Like the Mavericks, even if you go back to the previous coaching staff and all of that, even if you go back to pre-Luka Doncic days, the Mavericks have been a team in the last decade that has started pretty much every year slow. Like it takes them a while to get going, and bad seasons, they never really had a chance to dig out of a hole because they fell into too deep of one right in the first month of the season. You don't win a division or make a playoff run or something in the first month of the season, but you can damn sure play yourself pretty much out of that contention. Even with the Luka Doncic era, they've started slow for the most part. And last year, I think it was more just kind of health related. They all, like we talked about earlier, the health and safety protocols really was difficult for them. They struggled initially to adapt to Jason Kidd's defense and offensive schemes. I mean, the first week of the season, we were kind of like looking at each other. I literally wrote about it at one point. It was just like, man, I really hope they're on the precipice of breaking through in this, because this is not good. Like they look like they don't know where they're supposed to be in these situations. Like they look broken in their spacing, their timing. Nothing looked like it was working well. And it did work out in a big way, but it took time. Now, year 2 of Kidd, that's not going to be quite the same story. But this team losing Jalen is losing arguably your second best player, a major factor and piece of your team the past few years. Now you don't have him, and you're going to have to kind of recalibrate. You have, as you said, new faces in there that you're going to have to figure out how to integrate. They did turn over a fair bit of this roster. They did not for once run it back with the same crew. That was something that drove me insane the past few years, was how little systemic change we saw in the roster and its composition. Lot better investments this time. If they had kept Brunson, obviously if you had been able to do that in a way that didn't just completely break bank, I would have felt better about it. But I think even though it's been a while and we've kind of cooled on it a little bit just because it's a little bit distant, it happened so early, the Christian Wood thing is massive. It really is. I'm not saying the Christian Wood thing beats Golden State for you by any means, but I am saying it is a substantial addition that gives you a dimension to your offense you have simply not had, let alone in that capacity. Now, the West, to Steve's point, is stupid deep, and Kawhi is back, which means the Clippers, who were already a playoff team last year, even without him, are suddenly a very real threat. They're back in the mix, and that's going to be something you're going to have to contend with. You have a lot of really good teams in the West. Golden State will probably take a small step back. I don't think they're going to drop off, but they did have to make a little bit of a change up.
Wiseman in them back, though.
Yep, that's true. So the West is vicious. And
keep your eye on them Pelicans, too.
Yeah, I still got to see a full year of healthy Zion to really buy into that.
Right. But them getting C.J. McCollum, like I said, they try to make, you feel what I'm saying? My thing is with the whole West, they're all trying to continue to get better. And we've seen the West has been the tough out for like the last, let's say, 10 years. The West has been a doggish type, for you to get through the West, you got to be good.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, we really got to see that inside game. To me, DDP is really got to click. So the JaVale McGee's, the Maxi
Christian
Cleavers,
Wood,
the Christian Woods, the Dwight Powells, they really got to show and prove on that inside, because we really that's what the reason why they went and got Christian Wood, right? That's the reason why they got the JaVale McGee, because we were lacking on that inside and inside firepower in particular. So we're going to have to, Wood is going to really be counted on, dog. Like, he might be a 6-man, but he's going to be a tough 6-man. So hopefully what goes by what you were saying, that he can really turn up and get that double-double. This is his opportunity to really shine. He should really grab a hold of it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, any of these teams in the West other than Golden State, I think Dallas can go toe-to-toe in a 7-game series. I think they're capable of beating pretty much any of these teams other than maybe Golden State. The thing is, as you said, the West is a gauntlet. And to get through everybody, to fight everybody and get through it all is no easy task. As much as we talk to, because it's the only thing we can point to, the 2011 Mavericks, the championship team, they dodged a bullet. Memphis bounced, 8-seeded Memphis bounced San Antonio, top-seeded San Antonio in the second round. That completely changed the complexion, because suddenly you were getting the young, scrappy Thunder in the finals, or in the West Finals, not having to contend with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Kawhi Leonard, Manu Ginobili, etc. Like, that was a very... Oh, was Kawhi there at that point? Kawhi might have still been a year off, or maybe he was a rookie. He wasn't quite Kawhi yet, but still. Point is, a very different look, and not having to deal with San Antonio and LA and Miami and Portland that year was huge. You still went through a historic gauntlet, but you still dodged a serious bullet in the I think best record in the NBA in the Spurs, if I'm not mistaken. So always got to point that out. The Mavericks are capable of a deep run. Yes. I think they still need something. It's hard to put your finger on it, but we can use that into a smooth segue here. One of the things the Mavericks were talking about, they're not making a move before the season starts, it sounds like, but you never know. One thing they were expressing interest in was adding another 3-and-D weapon. They wanted to add another guy that could help spell Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith a little bit, so that they don't have to play 45 minutes a game apiece every single playoff game. That very clearly caught up to them by the time the Golden State series comes around, because Golden State never stops moving. Curry in particular never stops moving.
Right.
That's agonizing to have to get that deep into a playoff run and then deal with that guy. So, yes, having another capable 3-and-D weapon would be very good. An interesting guy seemingly is coming available for that. Jay Crowder, who the Mavericks drafted, has asked for a trade from Phoenix. Now, a couple things to consider here. Crowder was reportedly told that he would likely come off the bench this year, and that's what instigated him requesting the trade. I don't think he starts in Dallas if he gets here. He's not starting over Dorian, and I don't think he should start over Bullock. So that part doesn't change, but it could also just be like a matter of where the team is and what his role within the team would look like. And he had a rough postseason last year. I'll get into that. But if Crowder's coming available, Shams says there are 4 teams that are potential suitors to keep an eye on. He lists Dallas, who has been after Crowder multiple times in the last few years, including last offseason. Crowder turned down Dallas in favor of Phoenix. Miami, Boston, and Memphis. And I've also heard mention of Milwaukee being in the mix. So there's definitely a market for Jay Crowder.
He would be good in every one of those teams. Let's keep it real. He would be good in every one of those teams because of his skill set. His skill set can play.
He's been with all of them before.
Right. He's been with 7 teams
except
already.
Milwaukee. Yeah.
You feel me? He's been with 7 teams already. So his skill set, he's one of those guys, DDP, where you see he's a journeyman, but if he comes to your team, kind of like your boy that was with the Milwaukee Bucks and he went to the Heat, he's kind of like him. What's his name?
Milwaukee Bucks. You talking about Middleton?
Not Middleton. BJ Tucker.
PJ Tucker. Yeah.
PJ Tucker. He's like, he reminds me of him, but a little better than Tucker offensively. He reminds me of him. He can go to any squad and he's going to help your team instantly. That's what I feel like the Jay Crowder is. But I feel like, and specifically, he would definitely help Dallas because of his tenacity. I feel like Dallas needs that tenacity, that little kind of attitude. Remember when the Dallas went out and got your boy from the Heat?
Oh, from the Heat?
He was the forward, and they got rid of him. He was there for a little bit. He was supposed to be the enforcer.
You talking about in the last couple of years?
Last year, he was the bubble year that we got him. He was supposed to be the enforcer for a little bit.
Talking about dogs are coming. Talking about
he came from the Heat.
He went from here to Boston.
And he was he was the Heat, and he was 6'8", 6'9". I can't remember his name. It's right on the tip of my damn tongue.
Somebody in the comments help me, because this is
somebody help us.
Blank on my part.
It's like 2020.
I've already blocked him out.
Because we had him like half the year, and then we got rid of him. And he was supposed to be like this enforcer, and it did not work out.
Well, there was him and James Johnson.
James, that's his.
Oh, you're talking about Johnson? Okay, I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about the guard.
No, James Johnson.
Richardson, it's the guy I was thinking of.
Not Richardson, but remember James Johnson? He was supposed to be the enforcer on the inside. So I think Crowder. I'm not saying Crowder feels that, but what I'm saying is Crowder brings it. He brings. I don't know. He just brings some scrappiness. He's Bruce Bowen. He's annoying. He's annoying. You know what I'm saying?
He was absolutely going at Luka in that Phoenix
series.
Me?
He's going to annoy you. He's going to get under your skin. He's going to bother you. But he can hit big buckets. He can hit big threes. He can do defense. He can pass the ball. He can get rebounds. That's what the Mavericks need as well. But I like his attitude, because when I look at Bullock and those guys, they're good players, but they kind of chill. Crowder has more of an edge. And I think that's what the Mavericks need. And I like his edginess.
Yeah, I think of Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith. I think of them as tenacious. I think of Crowder also tenacious, but I think he wants to get under your skin. I think
he's edgy. Yeah, he's getting under. He's bothering you.
He wants to pester you to the point where he's like, if I can make you take a swing at me, I'm winning. That's his mindset.
And that's not Bullock and them. That's not him. That's not they're intense, but they're in a different way.
Yeah, so that's kind of the notes I had on Crowder, is like physical, borderline enforcer at the forward position. He would absolutely help spell Dorian Finney-Smith and Bullock in the postseason run, which would be great. A couple notes: last season he averaged 9.4 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 1.9 assists. His shooting from the field, not good. 39.9%.
39%, 34% for 3-point range.
34.8% from three. His postseason numbers are also interesting. Also 9.4 points, 4.7 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 40%.
40%. 30.
You're seeing we're like all equal.
And that free throw percentage wasn't great either.
Except for the 3-point shooting. He then dropped from already like a pretty respectable, if not great, 34.8 to 30.2%. His big games against Dallas in that Western Conference semifinal were games 4 and 5, when he dropped 15 and 19 respectively. Right. The game he had 19, he was unconscious from three. He was one of the few things really working for Phoenix in that game. So, yeah, it is a guy who his most recent production is kind of down, but it's also a guy who it's like, okay, well, if you can spoon feed him that kind of looks Luka Doncic, spoon feeds all day, maybe you can bump that up. Most guys Luka plays with, even if they're just okay 3-point shooters, son of a bitch, they have a bump like in their 3-point percentage playing with Luka. Examples of guys who really didn't. I think you probably just have to look at like Wes Matthews, Harrison Barnes. They both had subtle bumps. Porzingis didn't really get much of a bump in that respect. Richardson didn't really get much of a bump, but pretty much everybody that plays with Luka gets a raise or a rise in their 3-point shooting percentage because he can set them up so well. In the cases of Richardson and Porzingis that I mentioned, if you look at their shooting percentage on wide open shots, which is a shot with 6 feet or more space between them and the defender, both of them shot barely over 30% on those looks. That's the problem. It has nothing to do with like playing with Luka versus not. It's like, okay, if you can't convert those shots, then you can't convert those shots. Like statistically, there's not another greater measure or anything like that we have to identify a cleaner look for you. If you can't hit those shots, you can't hit those shots. So I think Crowder could have a little bit of a bump, especially if he's willing to take a slightly lesser role. Again, he was starting for Phoenix, was there when they made their march to the finals, and then there last year. If he was willing to do that, and that's a big if.
He should, though.
He should. But even though he's been here before,
DDP.
I don't know that he will.
He should, though.
Based on everything that it sounds like his mindset has kind of been lately, I don't know that he would. But
he needs to chill.
Sometimes you can have those veterans make that sacrifice. Sean Marion willingly gave up a starting role in 2011 to Caron Butler. And Marion was a multi-time All-Star, had accomplished more than than Caron Butler had, and yet he made that sacrifice. And now Butler got hurt, and he ended up moving back into the lineup, but that wasn't until December, January-ish. So
okay.
Yeah,
you've been in the league 10 years.
Yeah.
You've been on 7 teams.
Never won a title.
I don't think you can jump out there and say, I need to be starting on the next team I go to. No team is looking at you like that now, bro. You're 32 years old. You've been on 7 teams in 10 seasons. You are labeled a journeyman now. So if they give you a starting role, it probably won't be long, because if they have anybody else, they're going to move you. You're going to be the first person to move out the lineup.
I was just about to ask, like, of those suitors we talked about, how many of them would he start for? Maybe Memphis?
Maybe. And that's not even going to be a long time.
No.
They're going to replace you quickly. Those are up-and-coming teams. They're going to replace you. The best bet is for you to figure a way to get to Dallas and just accept the role, because you're going to get minutes. You're going to get tick. And like you said, Luka's going to bring your three-point shooting out of you. He's going to be able to give you the rock. Those things are going to happen for you. You jumping on this starting role and want to be this starter in the league, that ain't your thing, my guy, any longer.
Yeah. He's 32. He should be willing to take that slight.
You feel me? Back. Stop trying to be – that's your pride getting in your way right now, and let that go. You only averaged 9 points over at Utah. It wasn't like you was averaging 16, 7, and 8 over there.
Right. But yeah, that's a possibility. Again, I don't think it likely happens, but it is interesting because Dallas has been interested in him in recent years. He has been here before. He does fit the role of what they want, but you have to not just fit it in terms of on the court. You have to fit it personality-wise, character-wise. And I don't know if he would be willing to take that role for Dallas. I also don't know how much they'd be willing to give up to go get him. Like, truthfully, like, he would be a nice fit. But he would be a nice fit.
We ain't spending a lot of money. Yeah,
if Dallas made a move, I could see it at the trade deadline. I don't think they're going to make a move for him today. I don't think they're going to make a move for him before the season. So
you have to evaluate the team and see where the team is at, and then say, okay, is he going to take us over the hump as far as what he can add to the team? But if you add him now, you don't even know what you have in your team right now. So that wouldn't even be smart to add him right now when you're still trying to figure out, because you just added new pieces. He's not a major piece. He's a piece that you can add later on, like you said, after the trade deadline, when you've seen where your team is at, after you got to see a good 30, 40 games of your squad. You know what I mean? You don't put him in there now because you don't know what's going on. He doesn't know a role. It would just be a disaster, and it just feel like it would cause problems. So they would be smart and do it at midseason if they were to do it. I mean, at the trade deadline.
For sure. Last thing on the Mavs here, I'll answer this question for Easy E, and then we'll move into Cowboys. He says, can someone explain McGee as the starter? Basically, all you need to know, Dallas, in the void of the Porzingis trade, they were destroyed scoring around the basket. They had no rim protection. Basically, every series, they were having to go in knowing they were going to get killed on rebounds. They were going to get killed on points in the paint. They had to figure out a way to strategically balance this with their plan of attack and how they swarmed. And for the most part, it worked. They spun brilliance into that went to the Western Conference Finals. But it was kind of held together by paper clips and bubble gum. It was not a full-term roster-building strategy. They made do to the highest extent possible with what they had. And McGee shores up your defensive interior much better. You need defense. You were getting destroyed in scoring in the paint. McGee is still a quality rim protector, quality rebounder, an athletic freak that will give Luka as good, if not better, of a lob threat than he's had with Dwight Powell. Which I know people say, like, well, Dwight Powell's not like in terms of the percentile. Dwight Powell has always been except for when he very first came back from the Achilles, has pretty much always been in that top like 3 to 4% of lob finishers. So you're going to get that with McGee, with better rebounding, with better interior defense. All of that will suit you better. Meanwhile, Christian Wood is a defensive liability from what we've seen in his career. Whether or not he can develop into a capable, competent defender remains to be seen. I feel like he's capable of it, but he has to do it. What he will excel at is coming off the bench, facing a lot of second unit guys and just murdering them, because he's going to be able to come in and be suddenly a focal point when he's on the floor, when he first comes on the floor, and he's still going to be getting heavy minutes. So you're going to be able to expose a lot of mismatches and let him do his thing, probably to a greater degree than if he was just an outright starter. So I think this is just fixing the interior defense and then bringing massive firepower off the bench when it is the most advantageous to you in terms of exposing mismatches. That's why McGee is the starter and Wood is not. That's my take.
And it makes more sense to me because I don't really want Christian Wood being the starting center. He's more of the power forward. He's more versatile like that. And just like you said, JaVale McGee is the true center. He's the guy that's going to get you the rebounds. He's going to be the rim protector. We know that's what he is. When he's been with every team in the league, they picked him up for defense and rim protection, right? Yep. And lobs, rebounds. They didn't pick him up for no offense. That's not what he's going to bring to the table. Mm-hmm. He's more of a rim protector than Christian Wood. We saw Christian Wood when he played with Houston and those other teams. He's not that defensive guy. He can make some defensive play because he has the athletic ability to be a good defensive player because he's long, athletic, can slide his feet. Can box, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's good on his second jump. When you watch him when he gets rebounded, he's good on his second jump. Yeah. So all those are good qualities to play defense, but that's not his known. But right. We know that's what JaVale McGee. So it makes more sense for you to do it that way and kind of see how it feels. And like I said, I think they're going to mix and match how JaVale McGee and Dwight Powell, they're just going to kind of see how it flows with Luka, and whatever is really kind of working, then they'll go with this. But, in the beginning of the season, it's going to be a lot of early season trying to figure it out, and that's okay. I don't think Dallas fans, we should wig out if it's not early things clicking, because this is going to take a little bit of time to kind of figure it out and blend.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, let's move into some Cowboys talk here.
Let's do it.
So, Cowboys got themselves I was going to say nice win. Let's just say a win.
A win. That wasn't nice. That wasn't no nice win.
A win against the Giants in the Meadowlands. Hey, Giants were undefeated, sir. I'll have
and
you
they
know.
Suck. And yeah, right. That was the most fraudulent 2-0 ever in your life. You feel me? Yeah. And we know that, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's specifically talk about the CeeDee Lamb roller coaster, because I feel like that game really encapsulated CeeDee Lamb's professional career so far. Like, you saw the lowest lows. You saw some of the dazzling highs that make him such a mystery of a player, a guy who the ability is there. I mean, he's already made a Pro Bowl. You see the ability that makes him potentially one of the best receivers in the league, but you also see the complete inconsistency as well. Like, and you know this. I'm a huge CeeDee Lamb fan. OU guy. Mm-hmm. That I've said before, he's probably one of my 2 or 3 favorite OU players of all time. Mm-hmm. Like, I popped huge when CeeDee Lamb fell to Dallas and they actually took him, because that was my fear, was like he was falling and for some reason Dallas was going to do something stupid. Right. I think they absolutely made the right move taking him, even though receiver wasn't necessarily what they were going in looking for at the time. Mm-hmm. But even still, he's been inconsistent. Like, we've seen drops, which were not a problem for him in college. The drop he had in the first half hurt my soul, and in multiple ways, not just because it's like, dude, if not a touchdown, that should have been like a 40-something yard gain. Like, could not have been a better pass. Giants, you gashed him with a big run play and then immediately hit him, got the single coverage. Like, that should have been a walk-in touchdown, or at the very least, like I said, a 40-something yard gain, and hits him right in the hands. Just takes his eye off the ball, drops it. He's smiling about it. He's frustrated. I know he is, but his body language is not good as it happens. He looks kind of aw shucks about it. And then they do manage to get a first down still to extend the drive, but it dies, I think, on the next set of downs. And the last play, third down, is a tipped pass, but it's still a tipped pass that gets to CeeDee's hands, and he drops it again. Now he's about to get walloped by the defender, but it's another drop, and he goes to the bench. And they don't see this. I don't think the broadcast ever showed him kind of uncomposed and losing his mind a little bit, but we did see like reporters talking about it and saying like DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons and some of these guys had to go and talk to him, kind of calm him down and everything. And he turns it around in the second half with a huge performance. That fourth quarter in particular was that one drive, really. I say the fourth quarter, really that one drive. He went out and with Cooper Rush won the game. That's awesome. But it's kind of like, where's the consistency? Because if you're the guy, not just the number one receiver, but supposedly one of the best receivers in the league, at some point you got to like step up and find consistency, right? You have to actually do that. And again, I'm saying this as a CeeDee fan. You have to be able to do that. And I'm not convinced whether, I don't know if the problem is him versus somehow the Cowboys coaching staff, but something's not happening there, and he's got to find a way to figure it out because he's capable of so much more than this. I just feel that he is, and it's frustrating watching right now as a fan.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating, and we've talked about it. Coming from my perspective, I think more about the CeeDee Lamb than me because you're an Oklahoma guy, I'm a Texas guy, and you're deep in that with the Sooners, and you got to see him at a very close level. I think it's a combination of both because I feel like the Cowboys, they just don't want main guys unless they absolutely have to pay you. If they absolutely have to pay you, you have to be like the guy.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like the Cowboys thinking is if we're going to pay you, you have to be the absolute man.
Right.
Like Micah Parsons, he's going to get his money because he's the absolute man.
Right.
You feel me? If they have any doubt that you're not being the absolute man, they don't want to pay you. Yeah. And so that's what happens. That's what's going on. And I said, CeeDee, I was making the tweets like, man, you're giving them ammo, bro. You're giving them ammo. This is what they're going to look at when they don't want to pay you that money. When they're going to sit there and look at your career like, and they were already talking about this with CeeDee before the season. They were like, he's had a good career in Dallas, but hasn't been what we thought,
right.
Him dropping to us. And
I would agree.
I would agree with that. I think we all would agree.
Yeah.
If we're really being honest with ourselves, I think we will all agree that CeeDee has been good, but for the way he dropped to Dallas, we thought he was going to be all world. And when he first came in, it was trending, but then it kind of it flatlined. It's kind of just like tapered. It's kind of just like, is it the offensive scheme or is it CeeDee? Because you wonder if he went somewhere else, would he go crazy?
I feel like he would, but like, right. let me ask you this. Do you know when his last 100-yard game was?
Ooh, wait. Talk to me.
Minnesota, at Minnesota last year when Amari Cooper had the game winner. He had 112 yards. That was the game after New England.
That's
he had
like
to walk
8
off.
games, right?
Yeah, that was like midway. That was like the halfway point of the season last year. He did it against Minnesota. I looked it up. Life's crazy. Yeah, so 112 versus the Vikings. That was his last 100-yard game. We've gone more than a half a season at this point, basically closing in on that, on like a full season since his last 100-yard game. And that's why I said I do feel like to some extent it is the play calling, and it is, as we've said before, kind of like the Amari Cooper thing. Like, how do you not feature him more? How do you not?
But here's the thing, though.
But if he makes that catch in the first half, it doesn't matter because he'll get his 100 yards. Like, that's where I say, like, it is partly on you, CeeDee.
It is on him, but here's the thing, because he's been targeted 10 times the week 1, 10 times week 2, and 12 times week 3. So it's not like he's not being targeted. We can't sit there and say he's not being targeted. So he is being targeted. He's one of the most targeted players on the team. But I feel like it's just the thing with him is I think it's the maturity thing. I think when Amari Cooper was here last year, CeeDee didn't have to worry about certain things because it was Amari, and basically it could hide things for you. You don't have to worry about certain things because all the focal point was Amari. Now Amari's gone. Everybody's now CeeDee. They don't care about no Noah Brown. They ain't talking about no Jalen Tolbert. It's CeeDee Lamb. Everything that happens in this passing game now, it's about CeeDee Lamb. No matter if they throw it to Jalen Tolbert, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb mentioned. You get what I'm saying? And that 88 is even more blasted. But here's the thing, and I'm also going to say
that's a curse for him at this point.
But you know what? Let's not look back and say we didn't see Dez Bryant drop big plays too.
Sure.
When we saw
Dez didn't really he would come off with all the 100-yard games until year 3, year 4. So
right. So let's not act like and I'm not taking anything away from Dez. Dez was an absolute monster. But let's not act like we didn't see games where Dez would drop an easy pass. We've seen that times with Dez when we would get mad. We're like, why the hell did you just drop that an easy pass? And then he'll come back like CD did and make a crazy catch. And you're like, yes, that's what we're talking about. So I just think the mentality was different than with Dez. With CD. CD is a little bit just more chill. Just like CD.
That's the vibe I get is CD.
CD's just chill.
Yeah.
And I think
he'll enjoy burning you, but like he doesn't want to go like
he's just chill.
Rip your soul out or anything.
Yeah,
like he doesn't want to bury
CD's
you like Dez would.
Yeah, kind of CD's just kind of chill. He's not like aggressive like Dez was. Dez was like ultra aggressive, and even Michael Irvin was ultra aggressive. Even now, look at Michael. He screams on TV like he's gonna bust a freaking vein in his head. You know what I'm saying? And Dez is still like that. CD is not that person, and I think that's where people are like, "Oh, he's not the 88." Because we're used to seeing the 88s recently and their attitude. And that's why they're like, is CD an alpha dog? Because we remember Dez and Mike, they were alphas. But CD's all chill. Is he an alpha? And I think that's where they're getting that misconstrued just because, like with Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is a dog, but Amari Cooper just wasn't showing you all that emotion like that. And I just feel like, in my opinion, DDP, maybe you can tell me, CD just seems like he's just a little more chill. Doesn't mean he's not a dog, but I don't know if he's going to be a number one guy in Dallas because they don't really go to that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. I think his temperament as a number 2, I think he can be a fantastic number 2 receiver. Honestly, I think the best thing for him, especially in this system, would have been if you had kept him in the slot. I think that's where he would have been the most devastating in terms of a weapon on your offense. But I think when they drafted him, like you said, they thought that they'd had a world beater that, like, oh, we can't believe this fell into our lap. We're going to take every advantage of this. And it's almost like, okay, this is what we drafted you to be. We moved on from Amari Cooper. You go show us that you are that if you want to get paid. And it's like, that's not a bad mindset unless you consider, like, in the meantime, are you really trying to win? Is that really your top priority, or are you just evaluating?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, if you wanted to win, CD is best in the slot. When he's your 2, or if you're running out of the slot, he's lethal. Like the stats last year when you had him able to run that way were the last couple of years when you had him able to run out of the slot, he was incredibly effective. But then I know Gallup obviously missed a lot of time last year, even before he got injured at the end of the year against the Cardinals. He still dealt with, I think, a calf injury earlier in the year that cost him more than a month. So yeah, there were issues there, but CD's production, if you use him as a mismatch and don't just say, hey, go be the guy that can just beat any cornerback, I think you're misusing him a little bit. You're trying to say, like, we drafted you to be this, go be this, as opposed to actually looking at what the guy is.
They're doing the same thing with Dak. Let's just say that. They're doing the same thing
instead of looking at what the guy is and saying, okay, we're going to work to your strengths. It's like, no, you're this, you're going to be this.
They're doing it with Cooper Rush, though. They're working in his strengths. They know where he is, and that's the problem, and it's coming out of me already again because, first of all, CeeDee Lamb in the slot this year, he's got 54. He's been in the slot 54% of the time. Then he's been out wide. He's been out wide 45% of the time. So he's still playing more in the slot right now. He had more times out of the slot in this last game than he's had all year. He was only in the slot 12 times, whereas he was out wide 19 times. So I don't know what they're trying to do with that. But just going back to what you just said, instead of them letting CD just be a player and just be a good, just let him be a dog in his own way, they want to put a label on you. And they're doing it with Dak. They're like, well, we paid you this $40 million. Now Go prove to us that you're the franchise guy. So let's
Mhm.
wing it, throw it every single time, because you got to always let us know that you're the franchise guy.
Right.
CeeDee Lamb, we got rid of Amari Cooper. You got to let us know that you're the number one guy before we thinking about paying you. What? Just let him play. Work to his strengths and just let him play, because when you're putting that pressure on him, maybe that's why they may not be doing certain things, because you're overdoing it instead of just letting them play.
Yeah. If you want to ask Dak to go out and be like an Aaron Rodgers type, he's not going to be a great
He's
one.
not that dude.
But if you let him go out and be him, if you let him go out and be Dak, he can be great, and he can do everything you need him to do.
Use their damn run game.
Right. It's what you're pressing upon him to be. It's what you're trying to make him be that doesn't allow him to be his best version of himself. Same thing with CD, I think, here. I think while I'm surprised he hasn't been able to take that step, maybe it's the system, maybe it's play calling, I don't know, hasn't been able to take that next step into like a true number one receiver at this point. I thought he would be having a huge year already. And so far, honestly, this Giants fourth quarter, where on that one drive, him and Cooper Rush connected 4 times for 48 yards, including a pivotal 4th and 4, which the Cowboys for once were smart to get their asses up to the line and immediately snap the ball.
Yeah, because that didn't look like a first down.
I didn't think so. And then he has the dazzling one-handed catch on the fade for the touchdown. That's great. You see those moments, that's awesome. But he's got to find that consistency. And if you want to be the number one guy, you got to have that consistency. And I would say if you're going to force him into that role, he can be a good number one receiver.
I don't think they're going to pay him.
There's a long way to go, but right now my gut is saying the most recent sample is not strong. So if this is the prove it year, it's not off to a great start, especially for what he would fetch. So yeah, I think this is a situation where he's got a lot to prove. I think the ability is still there. I don't know that the temperament is right for like the mentality that you want for your number one receiver. But I also know that you could be using him better to his skill set, better to his style of play, and getting the most out of him. And you're choosing not to. That's my problem with it.
Here's the problem what I have though. When he came into Dallas, right, he was wearing number 2 and we loved him. I was like, I was mad he changed it. Did he willfully change it, or was that Jerry Jones? When I hear people saying he need to take off that 88, he need to do this, he need to do that. He's not the one that took the 88. That was Jerry doing that. Just like when 94 with Randy Gregory, Jerry gave him that because they're like, oh, we got DeMarcus Ware part 2. Here's the number. Roll it. They're giving him the pressure. I was cool. I wanted him to keep the number 2. I didn't want him to go to the 88. I specifically said, I don't want CeeDee Lamb having number 88. I want to have him at number 2 because that's going to put unwanted pressure on his career and that he doesn't need to have. Just let CeeDee Lamb be CeeDee Lamb and not worry about the 88. That was Jerry Jones doing that. So we can throw Jerry Jones on that because he's the one that pressed the 88 on CeeDee Lamb, not CeeDee Lamb. And what's CeeDee Lamb going to say? No to Jerry Jones as a rookie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know. And, it's hardly the first time he's done that. He's done the same thing with 94. He's done the same thing. Like people don't talk about, what was it? Antonio Bryant. We don't talk about Antonio Bryant, that 88.
And he tried to make him the 88 too.
Yeah, he gave him 88 and Bryant ended up throwing a sweaty practice jersey in Bill Parcells' face. And that was that. But it doesn't always work. The experiment doesn't always work out. And it's one of the worst bits Jerry does where he tries to anoint guys because it's like it's a marketing thing. It really is. Like he's selling the fan base on this draft pick. Like, oh, he's the next great one. You liked Michael Irvin? Well, here's the next one, Des Bryant. Now, Des panned out. Des lived up to the 88.
Right.
But you love Des Bryant? All right, here's CeeDee Lamb.
Here's our new one.
It's always... Yeah, it's DJ Khaled. Another one. Like that's just the entire mentality is just to push the marketing of it. Because if CD came out as number 2, Jerry Jones looks at that and he says, "There's no historic number 2 in this franchise or anywhere." Like
we're gonna talk about that every day when we have the meetings. And go ahead.
It's identity crisis. He doesn't let anybody be what they are. Not the best players. He wants to try and make them and market them as the previous greats that came before them. I'm surprised he hasn't forced number 8 on somebody for Troy. I'm really
Troy
surprised.
ain't having that, and
You
because
think-
Troy ain't having that, and I feel like I know, but I just feel like Troy, and because Troy just to me don't be up with the BS with Jerry Jones, and I feel like that's why they don't have that great relationship because Troy don't be for the BS. I mean, let's just keep it real. This is my perspective. The reason why Michael Irvin is just so cool with Jerry Jones, you know why? Because he kisses the ring.
Well, yeah, Michael Irvin also wasn't the first 88. That was Pearson.
Right, but Michael Irvin kisses the ring, so that's why it's always good and glamorous. You know what I'm saying? If you're as long as you're kissing the ring with Jerry, you're gonna be in there. You're gonna have your arm around him. He's gonna take care of you as long as you kiss the ring. Aikman don't kiss the ring, bro.
Yeah, nor does Emmett.
Right, they don't kiss the ring, so that's why you don't see them out there with Jerry all the time. They don't kiss that ring because they know what it really was. They were in it. And when you saw Troy, when he was getting ready to retire, he said, I didn't like how they were doing things. I didn't like how it was going. And I don't like how they were playing it. So I wasn't going out like that. And I didn't like how Jerry wasn't really trying to win. It was just about the market. Troy Aikman said that.
Yeah.
And he said, I wasn't doing that. I'm out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Carlos Holloway says Troy would probably be heated if Jerry gave someone number 8. True.
Right,
and it also occurs to me,
go off.
22 was never given to anyone. I just always
because
assumed
they would not do that because they didn't have that great relationship with them, and they ain't having that dog. They would beef with him.
Yeah, and I also assumed it's because Emmett's the all-time career rushing leader, and so that's like if there's a number you don't give out, it's that one.
Exactly. True story.
But yeah. All right. Yeah. So CeeDee Lamb leads to be seen. Need to see it, but I will say this as a huge OU guy, huge CeeDee Lamb guy. I'm disappointed so far. I had higher expectations. Doesn't mean he's incapable of reaching them. As you said, it took Des Bryant some time too to really ascend to that next level. But I'm concerned whether it's the style of the offense or CeeDee's own focus and just really aggression or lack of aggression that's preventing him from hitting that next level. So I don't know. We'll see. But right now, it's a roller coaster. It's ups, it's downs, it's bad drops with dazzling catches. I just want to find some consistency. Just show me a little bit of what made you one of the best receivers in the country at Oklahoma, and I'm down.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I just feel like, I feel like this is what it is.
Yep. All right, let's jump ahead a little bit here. Into a last segment here. Let's talk a little bit about Micah Parsons. Didn't get a sack against the Giants, but his pressure rate was still phenomenal. Absolutely steamrolling guys getting after Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones under pressure more in that game the other night than he's been in his career. I think that when they put up the stat, he was pressured 21 times, and I swear we had like another 4 drives from the Giants after that. So I don't know what the number ended up being, but he was running for his life the entire game. To be fair, he did run for several first downs. I think he had like 4 or 5 first downs he ran for, but that was largely out of necessity. The Cowboys were on his ass. Micah Parsons was blowing through 2 dudes, knocking them down, getting to Jones and driving him to the ground. Absolutely love that. And considering he was sick all week, that is phenomenal. Like the dude is an absolute freak of nature. The combination of power and speed that he has is otherworldly, and kind of understandably so. Again, they're playing the Giants, so it makes sense that this comparison would resurface. People are kind of asking, like, is he kind of the next Lawrence Taylor? Not the same in terms of size necessarily. Like Taylor was a bigger guy than Micah. I think Micah's what, like 235, 240, something like that.
He's like 240, 244. Micah ain't no little dude.
No, I'm not saying he's little. I'm just saying, like, compared to Taylor was like 265, I want to say. But anyway, point being, the dominance and the just total control that he can enforce on any game. He is an absolute game wrecker, and doesn't matter what you try to do, he can absolutely blow up a game plan for you. And that's what's proven to be the case. Now, after the game, Lawrence Taylor talking about, like, yeah, he's off to a great start. Let's see him do it for 13 years. I get that. I do. Like, I also look at it and say, like, the eye test tells me not to question or put any doubt at all on like what Micah Parsons is capable of, because I've yet to see something he can't really do. But at the same time, I do have to remind myself sometimes, like, all right, he's played like just over a year. Like he missed one game last year. So he's played basically in 17 games. So compared to until last year, prior to last year, he's basically played 1 year and like 3 games. Okay. That doesn't mean that's still a small sample size, is what I'm saying. But the dominance, the ability, it's undeniable. And yet, as we were having the conversation this past show, talking about like if we put him already as the best defensive player in the NFL, or if we say he's in the conversation versus whatever, the biggest knock that seems to kind of come against him is the fact he hasn't been doing it that long. Like longevity does factor into perception, but I think in terms of the start to his career he's having, you really can't ask for anything better. He had 17 sacks through his first 17 sacks through his first 18 career games. That's the fastest, like the greatest rate that we've seen in NFL history. That says something. That says, like, even if you want to do a head-to-head comparison between him and Taylor, right now he's slightly ahead. That's impressive. It's going to factor into, like, when you talk about like an all-time great versus the new, and now I'm in total darkness, the new hot thing. It's like, okay, longevity matters, and we're going to have to see that in the long term. But in terms of just the actual ability, the actual physical ability and potential, I absolutely 100% think he is in that Lawrence Taylor caliber of player. I think he can even be better potentially. And that's saying a tremendous amount. But there's a lot of conditionals with that. Health, obviously, always being the first one that I point to. And longevity is the next thing. He's got, like Taylor said, you got to be able to do it for a decade plus to really do that. But as far as belonging in terms of his ceiling of what we're seeing, absolutely belongs in that category unequivocally.
Yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, Lawrence Taylor, I mean, he's got to respect it because, I mean, I'm sure when Lawrence Taylor came in the league, I watched Lawrence Taylor. I watched him from his rookie year all the way till he retired. So I watched. That's why when I said the comparison to Lawrence Taylor, when I first seen Micah Parsons, I felt like I was allowed to say that in my opinion because I watched Lawrence Taylor. I watched a lot of these old players a lot of these people didn't watch. You feel what I'm saying? So I can make the comparison. And Lawrence Taylor, when he came in the league, he was 237 pounds. At his highest, he was 250. That's when more he was got injured and he was more strictly a pass rusher. So Michael was actually bigger than him his first 5-6 years. Lawrence Taylor stayed around that 240 range. You get what I'm saying? But so when you look at the between both of the players, Micah Parsons has 19 pressures in 3 games, 6 hits on the quarterbacks, 9 hurries, 4 sacks. You feel me? 5 stops, 19 pressures. So he's averaging like about 6 pressures a game on the quarterback. And if you've seen that Giants game, it wasn't like he was not getting to the quarterback. He was right there. Like he was right there to get the sack. And the only reason why Micah Parsons didn't get a sack is because Daniel Jones is an athletic quarterback. That's the only reason why Micah Parsons didn't get a sack, because if you watch the all 22, he had at least 3 to 4 plays where his hand was right there on Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones ran up the middle and got a long run, because Daniel Jones ran for almost 80 yards in that game. And the reason why he ran for 80 yards because he was getting chased for his life by everybody. It was Micah Parsons, it was Dorrance Armstrong Jr., it was Fowler, it was DeMarcus Lawrence.
Marcus Lawrence 3 sacks was huge.
You feel me? They were all after him. So it was really him being able to escape the pocket is the reason why Micah Parsons didn't get a sack. But he was still in that backfield, even being sick. So we just got a different type of player. We have a generational type player. He is one of the best, if not the best, defensive player in the game right now. And the crazy thing is, he still plays more linebacker. You feel me? He's still playing more linebacker, and really his most dominant position is rushing the quarterback. But since he's so damn versatile, you don't want to keep him strictly on the line so you can get a beat on him. I feel like that's why they keep him at linebacker. but he's probably the better pass rusher. You feel me?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you don't want nobody to chip him, move the tight end over, slide protection. You know where he's at. So I feel like that's the only reason why they keep him at linebacker, DDP.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt. Like he's a good linebacker. I think he is a
phenomenal pass
phenomenal.
rusher.
I don't even know if that's a strong enough word. As a pass
rusher. He's an outworldly pass
like
rusher.
He is the golden standard.
Guy.
Yeah. He is the golden standard of pass rushers for sure.
Yes. He's the golden standard.
Yeah. So it's an interesting discussion. I think the sky is the limit for him, health permitting. I think he is absolutely, from a physical standpoint, capable of not just a Hall of Fame career, but a multi-championship career. And if Dallas is smart, they will actually build around this man, and they won't mess with the idea of like trying to lowball him or anything like that on any kind of contract. I don't think they'll lowball him, but you know how they do. They always try to like you said, they'll find points to try and say against them.
Fans going to turn on you, Micah. Just want to let you know that.
There's only so much pie. We can only give up so much, and if we give this to you, then how are we going to build around?
He's going to say that. Stephen Jones, we already know he's going to say that. That's why I said, Cowboys win a Super Bowl before Micah Parsons' contract is up, because you're going to be crying about paying him. I said that about Diggs too, but when I talk about CeeDee Lamb, Trevin Diggs, and Micah Parsons as that young group of the echelon that's going to get paid, I only see Parsons getting paid because I feel like they're going to play Diggs. Diggs is going to have to be phenomenal to get his contract. CeeDee Lamb going to have to be phenomenal to get their contracts. Micah Parsons is phenomenal. That's why he's getting his contract. Those other guys aren't phenomenal. They're really good. You get what I'm saying? I'm not knocking Trevin Diggs because he is a dog, but they're looking at phenomenal for them to pay you.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So we'll see what they end up doing. Cowboys, though, moved to 2-1. Who do they got next week?
Washington Commanders.
That's right. Yeah, Washington. Yeah, so Cooper Rush probably got one more game here before Dak is back.
We'll see about that.
Well, stitches are out, but I was reading something about he still has some swelling in the hand, maybe. So I don't know.
He's rushing.
And I don't feel like he should, especially now. Like, you've already won 2 games with Rush. You're already going to have to probably miss this game. Maybe
that pressure, dog, of
at worst
Rush is winning.
Right, but at worst, you're talking about 2-2. I would rather Dak get the extra week and get the hand right. But again, he didn't learn from last year. He rushed back after the calf, and he was never right again. By his own admission, he was never right again. So why rush now from the hand when at worst you're 2-2? There's no need. That's my take, but we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing, but that's all I got for this. If other footnotes, Jason Peters made his Cowboys debut. Him and Tyler Smith absolutely wrecked shop, sprung the Cowboys run game, which opened up Cooper Rush to be a bad man in play action. I'll give him credit for that. Cooper Rush in play action passes was laser sharp, and would have been, I try to remember that CD drop if that was play action. Might not.
I think it was play.
I thought it was. That might have been
play. Yeah, it was a great play how to set it up.
Yeah. So absolutely, the benefit of Peters at left guard and Tyler Smith showing out big. I love what I've seen from him so far. I was on the fence about him for a long time. Through 3 games, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm buying in. Like, I see it. I see not just the immediate, but the long-term picture of what you're looking at. This is your heir apparent to Tyron Smith, and you've got a good one here. So first round linemen, they know how to pick them.
Yeah, they definitely got the eye for the linemen. I'm gonna be honest with you. All the offensive linemen, I didn't know nothing about Tyler Smith like that. I was hearing in the rumblings. The only thing I was questioning was because he played at Tulsa. What the competition. That's the only thing I was worried about. But I wasn't like, oh, why did they pick him? I knew they were going to get an offensive lineman. It was just a guy I didn't know. That's the only reason why I was just like, I don't know who he is. Let me find out about him. But once I talked to like the OC and some other people and then kind of watched the tape, I was like, well, he ain't bad. He just got to learn technique on certain things. And hey, he is honestly going to be probably one of the next great left tackles out there, man. That's why I don't want them to move him because he's already doing really good. You talk about the growing pains. He's having growing pains, but he's not having major growing pains. You don't look at him like, oh, we need to help him. We need to help him.
Yeah.
You don't look at that with him. And I mean, it's just really exciting what he can do. Jason Peters, you know, he's still got to get his legs up underneath him. Connor McGovern will be coming back. I'm going to want to see how they do with that dynamic because I felt like Connor McGovern, I don't care what they say about him. I still think he's a good young player. He in those first few snaps of that first game, he was doing well, and you know, I feel like I would like to see him. I would like to see Jason Peters just come in if necessary. Let's put Connor McGovern in there. Let's see how it rolls because even with Farron not playing bad, Dallas still had 176 yards, and in these 3 weeks, Dallas is averaging over 100 yards rushing. So even in that Tampa Bay game when they had Farrakhan, okay, Zeke Elliott had 10 carries for 50 yards. He was averaging 5 yards a carry. They have been running the ball every single game. They have been able to run the ball. So that's what you got to look at when people are like, oh, replace this person, replace that person. Man, it's okay. Use Jason Peters. He's 40 years old. I don't really want him starting. Use him as your backup.
Reserve,
you don't need to start him because what if he goes down? Then you're screwed, right?
Yeah.
Go with the young guys. Keep your old guy and keep him as a reserve because it's a long season, right? 17 games. We don't want him playing 17 damn games. I don't want a 40-year-old playing 17 damn games.
No.
Right? So let's do it that way and like slow cooking as far as the Commanders. You know, I don't want Dallas to get, you know, oh, well, the Eagles got 9 sacks, we're going to destroy them. Let's not keep that mindset. Yes, they got 13 sacks, lead the league. Okay, don't have the mindset of that because then you can get complacent. You can get complacent, and then little things happen. Carson Wentz can go crazy because you got complacence because you think, well, the Eagles did it, we're going to do it too. Make sure you just go hard. Understand that. The biggest thing that I like with the Commanders is they don't run the ball. Okay,
they don't run the ball, and they are very susceptible to a good pass rush, which I think Dallas has in spades. So that's my confidence factor for the Cowboys is they should be able to get after Wentz in that offense.
Yeah, they definitely should. And I feel like this is a game that Dallas is going to win regardless of Cooper Rush or Dak Prescott because they're just the better team. So and I think that's going to show through. And my thing is when they bottled up Gibson, make them one-dimensional, make Carson Wentz have to throw the ball everywhere. He's throwing the ball at a crazy rate. I think he had like 42 attempts last game, 40 attempts the week before. So they're putting the ball on him because, hey, we got a quarterback. So let's just throw the ball. They're averaging 287 yards passing, only average 86 yards on the ground. That's good for 24th. You feel me? So let's make them one-dimensional. Dallas will win it.
I feel it. All right. That pretty much wraps up our time. We ran a long show today, but I feel like it was a good one.
It was definitely a good one.
Good one for sure. It'll be interesting once we get both seasons rolling simultaneously. We'll have a lot of good stuff to dig into. Mavericks helped us this week.
I'm ready for that dynamic.
Yeah, Mavericks helped us this week with Media Day, at least giving us some interesting new discussions and topics. But yeah, I'm looking forward to when both teams are running and we can pivot from a Cowboys game right into like, and the Mavericks played last night. Let's talk about that.
Right. Yeah,
that'll be nice.
That's going to be nice. I'm going to be excited for that because I want to be able to do the simultaneous thing. So I'm excited when that basketball season starts because I think it's going to be good. And make sure y'all keep on tuning in, like we always been telling y'all. Keep on tuning in. You know how we're rocking it. The NBA season is right around the corner, as we said, and you know, like me and DDP said, jump on this, man, because it's going to be a really cool dynamic when we can talk about the NFL game and then still be able to talk about a Mavericks game in detail on both sides. So I don't think that a lot of people are doing that out there in these streets right now, especially in the community. They're not crossing the NBA and NFL at the same time. It's usually one sport at one time. So I think we're doing something that nobody's really doing out there. And if you see it out there, you know what it is. Okay. I'm gonna leave that alone. But check this out. Love it. Support it. Go tell your people out there, because especially if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, I think you're really going to like it. And make sure you tune in, because we're going to give you some good stuff, man.
That'll do it for the show, guys. Tune in next week. Check out the show on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts.